Hey guys, today we are talking Bullhead. This is a 1976 Seiko 6138 0040 and very much a vintage Seiko fan favorite. We get requests for them all the time. This one does not belong to me. It is a client's watch that has been sent in for service. So we're going to be addressing some of the concerns with this piece in particular, but talking about overall what to look for in these references and what we see here will help you to better understand what you might want to find if you're looking for your own bullhead, and some things to steer clear of, some things to look for. But I hope you'll join us in this video and over the next few where we'll just do a full top to bottom nuts and bolts on the Bullhead. So the Bullhead setups were not terribly uncommon in the 1970s. Many other brands had Bullhead references. Tissot had the Sideral chronograph in a Bullhead format, and Omega, there's a Skywalker chronograph that comes to mind. Citizen has the 8110 challenge timer. Those are great little chronographs. Tons of features packed into a very small frame. If you're looking for a Bullhead, the Seiko Bullhead or the Citizen 8110 Bullhead, either are fantastic watches to have. There are a couple of different variants of Seiko's Bullhead. You have this brown gradient dial that's a bit lighter in the center and moves to a darker brown along the minute chapter there. And of course, from the factory, this would have been a much darker bezel, a very rich, almost a cognac brown. But this one over the years has faded from UV exposure to almost a honey, root beer, coppery brown, which, if I'm honest, I much prefer them to that much darker factory color. I think it's a very nice contrast against the darker dial. Really makes it stand out, and even if I would choose a worn root beer bezel, something with a bit of wear, but with this coloring to a perfect darker bezel. I just really prefer that color and think it gives it a lot of character, and again, such a nice contrast to the dial. There's also the brown speed timer variant. JDM version of the watch has the earlier ones have, of course, 5 sports speed timer, and but they're almost identical outside of a few subtle differences. Whereas the Sexport version has luminous material, and you can see here the hours are marked in luminous. Bit of color there, a couple of spots of missing luminous, but nothing too distracting. I certainly would probably leave this as is after some cleanup. And of course, the hands also have luminous. The hour hand here has some darkening there, but I'm not convinced that that's not just some dirt and or grease or something on the hand there. I bet quite a bit of that cleans up. But the speed timer variant is not going to have any luminous material. It has flat white hour markers and flat white sort of pencil or baton style hands. They look very close to the export hands outside of there are no luminous windows. And then of course you also have the black Bullhead. It's a black bezel with a black dial, and rather than these beautiful satin gold sub-registers, it has like a baby blue, maybe something a bit darker than baby blue sub-registers. However, there is no speed timer variant for the black Bullhead. So if you're out there hunting for a black speed timer, you're not going to find it. You can cut your search now. It doesn't exist. Let's just start with the name. It's pretty evident as to how that name came to be. More traditionally, you would see the crown here on the right side of the watch at 3 with a pusher north and south of it. The 6138, clearly a B variant in this particular watch, was rotated 90 degrees inside of the case, which moved the registers to east and west, 12 hours on the left, 60 minutes on the right, and that positions now the crown at the 12 o'clock and a pusher west, and there should be one on the east, but we are actually missing a pusher here. I can see actually part of it there inside of the tube. It looks like it broke off right of the gasket. Not terribly uncommon for these pushers. They're very thin right through the middle, not a lot of meat through the middle of those pushers, and if they are bent, they can become easily broken if a weak point is developed. So we're going to get that piece out of there, and we'll get a new pusher put in here too at some point. Right out of the gate, this crown is clearly incorrect. That looks to be, I'm going to guess it's a replacement Pogue crown, 6139, 6000-ish crown. It's about 5 millimeters and has the dimpling that you can see here through the center, but the actual Seiko version of this crown would not have this little lip that has been added, manufactured on this crown. It's much more where the dimpling goes all the way to the edge and not ending in some sort of a lip here, but no big issue there. It need to be replaced, genuine or aftermarket, but not a bad aftermarket crown if you are looking. However, this one needs a 65 millimeter crown. I believe it's a 65 MO6, MO1, something like that, but a much larger crown, and it's very easy to manipulate. Whereas this one, you can see that might be quite difficult as small as it is. Through the crystal here, and by the way, that looks to be the original Seiko Hardlex crystal. The bevel looks correct. Not a ton of wear, some marring along the top surface there and some scratching, but it would be okay to leave in place if you wanted to. However, I always think that replacing the crystal is one of the most gratifying and fastest changes that you can make to a watch that really improve the look. Nothing like a fresh crystal with light catching across a clean dial. That's it's hard to not love that. So for me, I'm going to recommend changing that crystal, but it definitely is still usable if you wanted to. However, looking through, we can see the dial. There is some residue through the middle there, and I'm going to guess that's probably from having been over oiled at some point. It looks like it's come right through the center hole of the dial, and there's a bit of a deposit and some residue right on the center portion of the dial there. I don't think it's spread. It's hard to see without taking the movement out of the case, but I can definitely see it sitting there, and the good news is it doesn't seem to have pooled to the outer edges. A lot of times what you'll see happening is the oil will settle into the outer edge of the dial and then begin to cause peeling in the layers, which you can lose, hash marks. The black inking on the sub registers can start to slip and move around. So that's never good. You want everything to stay exactly where it is. So I don't think we're going to have too much trouble there, but we're definitely going to make some attempts to clean that as good as possible. And but a great watch all together, and a worthwhile addition. It is a beast at 44 millimeters, but it's very comfortable on the wrist. You can see as they do with most of their larger watches, there's some really nice contouring as against the lower edge here where it hugs the wrist. It fits very comfortably. And it is a flared design, so a bit of a conical shape from side to bezel. It doesn't seem to catch on much. I have worn one many times and over several hours at a time. But as larger watches go, it's very comfortable. I don't think you'd have many issues with it. I certainly haven't heard of that being a problem for anyone. When you're looking at the case, some things you'll want to consider are always, has it been polished or overly polished? We can see here that the factory lines are nice and crisp, corners are sharp. You can see that the east to west brushing along the outer edge of the case is clearly still visible, and that runs right through the upper lug, through the crown and pushers, down the other side. Each of the lines up on the top and bottom of that edge are very crisp, and of course on the lower lug the finish switches to a north to south, and this is very prone to wear through here. It's not uncommon to see that almost completely gone, but there's quite a bit of contrast there that you can make out that finish is still clearly visible. But no polishing and a nicely faded bezel. A great example overall. I think once we get the dial cleaned up and figure out exactly what's going on with the movement, we're going to be in good shape on this one. Moving to the case back, no marring or slipping of a case back wrench, so you have a nice clean back. This one displays the serial here as a 6N, which is, as we said, November of 1976, and this is a 0040, 6138 0040. In the next video, we're going to get this bracelet off and open the case back, take a look inside, see what we can find out preliminarily about this movement, what we might need to do to get it running again. But I hope that you will come back and join us for part 2, when we will take a deeper dive into this one, get this movement pulled from the case and figure out exactly why it's not running, and start figuring out exactly what we need to do to bring it back to its former glory. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, hit us up in the comments. You can also email me at service@hubcityvintage.com. Happy to answer those. Any questions you might have about bullheads or any other Seiko models, I'm happy to talk to you about them. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon.